it's interesting what you said, Berenice, around that you just kind of get on with creating it and you're not really aware of the impact. And I actually think, looking back over your archive, one of the really big things is the way that you've like shone the spotlight on so many other people, and we get an episode to shine it on you, and it's like, whoa, hang on. Not sure how comfortable we feel about this, but you've done such an amazing job. So you're such a blessing for our community, and we're super grateful. And, you know, I can see the impact locally for us. I can just see so many more conversations happening across Australia, so many connections happening between women, and there's a real groundswell, I think, of, and I think there's going to be a real commitment over the next few years for us to come together collectively and really start getting some things happening. And I think that what you've contributed is really powerful to the creating of that space. So thank you very much.
Well, I have a theory that you are now experiencing what it's like to be celebrated and to have to blow your own trumpet and pat yourselves on the back for 2 years, having going through it all for Gateway Women's 10th anniversary. It's like, oh, but this is all about other people, and suddenly the focus is on us. Eek! So yeah. I just wanted to say, very happy second birthday, Full Stop podcast team. It's been an absolute delight watching it grow, and I'm so proud of you. And the conversations that are happening here and are spreading around the world are so diverse and so important. And I love the vibe of this podcast. I think I left a review. It's like sort of gate crashing a party in a pub, and you just kind of, you walk past this table and there's this fascinating conversation going on, and they just grab you and say, sit down, and you're in. And that's a real testament to, you know, to the warmth and genuineness of you, and to Michael's editing, and Berenice's beautiful design, and Sarah's wonderful contributions, personality, and gobbiness, which you are now famous for.
Oh, thank you.
So I just want to say, you're going to have to get used to being celebrated today.
Thank you.
I know.
We're terrible at it.
Welcome to the Full Stop podcast and our second birthday episode with your hosts, Berenice Smith from Walk in Our Shoes, Sarah Lawrence from After the Storm, and me, Michael Hughes from Married and Childless. If this is your first time here, our podcast is centred around supporting the Childless Not By Choice community, and our aim is to be a focal point for the community, and with all our special guests, show you how to manage your grief and give a voice to the issues specific to us. And by example, show that a full and happy life can be had without the children we dearly wanted. We wanted to share our birthday with as many of our past guests as possible, so we created a sort of online open house for our various guests to pop in at their own convenience. As you will hear, this didn't turn out the way we expected, but in the most beautiful of ways. Now, this episode is a long one. We have limited the editing to a minimum to preserve the flow of this beautiful conversation. But before we get started, we have a special message from our beautiful and generous friend, Sevilla Morgan, who hosts the Childless Not By Choice podcast in the United States. Now, you can find her work at childlessnotbychoice, all one word, .net. Thank you, Sevilla.
Hi there, the Full Stop Pod podcast. It's me, Sevilla Morgan. I heard that you all are celebrating your 2-year birthday, and I wanted to stop by and wish you all a very happy birthday. You know, I am so proud of the fact that you guys are a part of the Childless Not By Choice community. I'm proud of the fact that you all made it past that, 7 to 10 episodes where most or a lot of podcasts pod fade. And so you made it. Congratulations. Happy birthday. Wishing you guys many, many more birthdays, many happy returns. And you know what? I don't have any questions, but I do have to say that I appreciate the fact that you all have been doing this for the past 2 years, recording together from 2 separate continents. How cool is that? So happy birthday. Many more birthdays together as the Full Stop Pod podcast. Until next time, bye.
I'm not the recording expert here. I just rock up. And everyone goes quiet.
I know, it's exactly right.
We
isn't it?
haven't done that. We've never perfected the art of that in 2 years.
No, 2 years.
2 years. Happy birthday, guys.
Yeah, feels like we should have like cake and party poppers and booze. But yeah, happy birthday.
I feel quite emotional about it, actually. I really do. It's quite, when I sit and think about it, given that it was an idea scribbled not on the back of a fag packet, but you could be excused for thinking that it might have been. It really was like a very quick idea, wasn't it?
Well, it was a competition entry, wasn't it?
It was. Rachel Bland Award for the BBC.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go on, Michael.
I was just going to say, when I was editing the other day, just thinking 26 episodes. That's, and you think back about all the guests that we've had, it's been an amazing ride. A really amazing ride.
2 of which we have here today so far. What we've done today, everybody, is we've created like an open house. So we've invited people to turn out who have been from our guests before, drop in whenever they'd like to. So we're joined this morning by Sarah Roberts and Jodie Day. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
This is the weirdest start.
It's the weirdest start
It is.
because none of us are feeling particularly party. It's a bit difficult. It's 10 o'clock. And so when we record this, for the benefit of those that haven't been guests and are listeners, we record at 10 o'clock in the morning for the UK. What time is it with you, Michael?
It's 7 minutes past 7.
Yeah, so Michael's slightly more party.
And it is the same for Sarah. This is what the next 6 months of the year will be on the same time zone.
Okay.
That's an Aussie thing, because the Queenslanders just don't do daylight saving for some reason. Something about fading the curtains and milking cows and things. I don't know.
Tradition.
Cannot explain it.
Well, I have a theory that you are now experiencing what it's like to be celebrated and to have to blow your own trumpet and pat yourselves on the back for 2 years, having going through it all for Gateway Women's 10th anniversary. It's like, oh, but this is all about other people, and suddenly the focus is on us. Eek! So yeah. I just wanted to say, very happy second birthday. Full Stop podcast team. It's been an absolute delight watching it grow, and I'm so proud of you. And the conversations that are happening here and are spreading around the world are so diverse and so important. And I love the vibe of this podcast. I think I left a review. It's like sort of gate crashing a party in a pub, and you just kind of you walk past this table and there's this fascinating conversation going on, and they just grab you and say sit down, and you're in. And that's a real testament to the warmth and genuineness of you, and to Michael's editing and Berenice's beautiful design and Sarah's wonderful contributions, personality and gobbiness, which you are now famous for.
Oh, thank you.
So I just want to say you're going to have to get used to being celebrated today.
Thank you.
I know.
We're terrible at it.
We just went, oh.
Welcome to my month.
Yeah, thanks for the preparation, Jodie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. It's a bit sort of, because I think it's like lots of stuff. I don't know, when you do something and you're in the middle of it, and I guess you could probably I can sort of attribute this to sort of like, actually, morbidly so, trying to be a parent. You keep going and going and going and going and going and going. And then at some point you stop and you think, God, I did that.
Yeah.
I did all of that. Oh. And then at some point you accept that you did all of that. And then you think, oh yeah, okay, I'm quite proud of that, really. Yeah, that's okay. I actually did something, I suppose. Or however crazy it was. And somehow that's a bit like the podcast. I'm like, I did all of that. We did that. Did we? Oh, and here we are. Oh, 26 episodes. 27. This will be our 27th.
Wow.
Which is a bit weird when it's 27 and actually it should be 24, but then, you know, we keep talking.
That's the kind of special extra director's cut. I love it, but you actually put them out as episodes. I love them. They're some of my favourites.
There's some real clangers in there. God, there's some conversations in that lot. And one day, Michael, you will do something, won't you? And Sarah and I are going to be, oh my God, he said that.
I've not had that yet, though. I don't think we've had an episode where we've gone, oh God, did I really say that?
Oh no, I've had that.
Have you?
Yeah.
Now she's thinking, oh,
I don't
I've dug a hole.
I can't say, Michael. Do you remember what it was that we were doing? No, I'm not going to remind you. You'll start talking.
He'll dig it out. He'll dig it out.
I'll have to hide under the table and switch off.
I think there's something about. I think there's something about your pants falling down and your knickers showing. I'm not quite sure.
No, that was you. That was you. That's you said that. And it was to do with phone lines, and that's all I'm going to say. And don't you dare continue that conversation at all, ever, even though you are all the way over there in Australia. You're not allowed to.
I remember it now.
Yeah, that got edited out.
I'm going to have to go looking for it now.
No, you're not.
Find it.
No, you're not. So there have been some clangers and some things. I certainly, anyway.
I think the most educational one was BB with Pampas Grass.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember that one? I was just like, no.
Oh yeah, yes. Because you were absolutely flabbergasted because when you got your house, you had Pampas Grass everywhere.
Grass. I was just like, oh, it's an ex-swingers house. Dear God. And I met these people.
Did you not know that? You didn't know that?
Genuinely, I didn't. No.
We actually moved into a house like that when I was a kid, and we didn't know that either. I mean, it was the grooviest, most 70s decorated, split level, amazing house with kind of purple and orange flowery wallpaper and stripped pine everywhere.
Wow.
And a lot of Pampas grass in the garden. And it was just like, I never completely understood what the grown-ups were going on about, but I know when they found out the Pampas grass went.
Oh, yeah. Couldn't dig it out quick enough, if I'm honest with you. I didn't want anyone sort of, doing a drive-by going, it's so-and-so.
Popping in on the off chance.
Yes. Oh, my God.
But I've got a house not far from me that still has it. It's thick with Pampas grass. So, of course, every time I go by, I'm sort of going on.
How many cars in the driveway today?
I did wonder as well as to whether the height and the amount of Pampas grass there was that like a level in the club? The more Pampas grass you've got.
I wasn't in the club, so you'll have to consult.
Like I was thinking it was a euphemism.
Expert BB.
Sorry.
I don't know. My mind goes all sorts of places. Right, let's move on, shall we? Away from Pampas grass. Yeah, I think that's
created a spike in Google searches for Pampas grass.
Yeah.
Or the best incentive to go and kind of go back through your archive.
Go and listen to BB Lynch.
Go searching.
Think about plants and trees and gardens. Sarah, how is your beautiful plantation coming along of trees?
It is lovely. It is so lovely. One of the things about me is that the big part of my legacy work is that I've had this long-term interest in native gardening and revegetation and rebuilding habitats, and so that feels like that's my legacy contribution, really, I guess. It's great, and I'm so lucky. I live on acreage. I can literally go out and plant trees that will be 60 meters high at full growth, and it's just amazing. So I don't really plant gardens, I plant forests, really, so so that's lovely. And I was really blessed. As you know, I did the last year I did the online bee program, and as a finishing up, we planted a really large gum tree for every woman in that program. So we've got this little forest that we planted, and
that's so
such a beautiful program and lovely way to to acknowledge the end of that, which was lovely. So yeah, look, I love it. It's beautiful. My long-term dream, actually, because once I did the death of the big dream, I was very cautious about kind of dreaming at all or stepping into dreams.
Absolutely.
And my secret long-term dream is very simple, which is I live on land that's right in koala habitat. And so we have a lot of, and the area of southeast Queensland where we are, the koalas are threatened, even though they were once hugely abundant here. And so I have this dream that I've put enough koala trees in that one day I will wake up before I die and there will be a koala on my property. And I have this little image in my head of kind of going down on my Zimmer frame and maybe seeing the koala and going, my work is done. So it's kind of a simple dream, really. I just decided big dreams are, a bit of an illusion. It's about being present to being here and now. So yes. But I want to say happy birthday. Oh my God, 2. That's incredible. It's incredible. And I wanted to echo what Jodie said. It's literally like coming in and sitting down at the pub and you guys are already well on the way to having a very joyful evening, and we just get to sit and listen. And it's been so lovely to listen to the conversation and the relationship, and it's so heart-centered and so important. It really echoes so many conversations, really impacting, that I think is really, really powerful. And it's interesting what you said, Berenice, around that you just kind of get on with creating it and you're not really aware of the impact. And I actually think, looking back over your archive, one of the really big things is the way that you've shone the spotlight on so many other people, and we get an episode to shine it on you, and it's like, whoa, hang on. Not sure how comfortable we feel about this, but you've done such an amazing job. So you're such a blessing for our community, and we're super grateful. And I can see the impact locally for us. I can just see so many more conversations happening across Australia, so many connections happening between women, and there's a real groundswell, I think, of I think there's going to be a real commitment over the next few years for us to come together collectively and really start getting some things happening. And I think that what you've contributed is really powerful to the creating of that space. So thank you very much.
Sarah. Thank
and
you.
To you, of course, Jodie, your work is, has really inspired a lot of that as well. So
thank you.
So very blessed.
Thank you. I was reading something this morning that a member posted in the online community about how the conversation is changing and how it used to all be about grief. And now it's a sense that there's almost a groundswell of kind of that's becoming an acceptable thing to talk about. And people are starting to talk about other things as well. And I think the diversity of our community is something that you've already done an amazing job on the podcast of bringing together, as Sarah said, of kind of amplifying those other voices and starting to really show that childlessness is what connects us, but it's not what defines us. That we're people from all kinds of walks of life and interests and nationalities and genders and sexualities. And I think that's a really, really powerful contribution that the podcast has made, is really giving those voices. And also the fact that, you have male voices and female voices, mixing together on your podcast, really starting, instead of sort of having to bang a drum about it, just, it's there, it's right in the mix. And I think that is so, because it's just sort of normalizing that it's possible to have these kinds of conversations. And I think that's what's so powerful about your work. And I really, really appreciate them.
Thank you. I think it's been something that we've always struggled to sort of, I was sort of conscious, I think, at the beginning when we started all of this, and particularly I think through the past year, of being, we've always said that, haven't we, from the start, 3 white people heterosexual, and you think, oh God, you know, maybe we should be more diverse. But one of the great things about our community, I'm turning it completely the other way and back onto everybody else. Let's take the light off us and shine it back, because we're uncomfortable. But it's about having people in our community who we were so happy to say, right, okay, here's the podcast. We'll be here. We're going to learn with our audience, and we're going to turn it back. And you take our episode and you curate that in any way that you want. And we provide the tools to do that, so we can be your audience, but actively participating and supporting you on the episode. Michael will edit, do the design, Sarah will ask all the wise questions that she does, and we can facilitate that because it's a podcast that's for everybody else. We're just sort of vehicles, but what we can do, I'm not sure a vehicle, I'm not sure that's a very flattering description, but we're kind of almost like, I suppose, wheelbarrows. We can deliver that information to people and enable that learning for others. And we can do so from a place where we may know nothing. You know, we learned so much about, you know, we were affected by aging ourselves with our children. We learned so much more from Kirsty, and we learned so much from Yvonne and her episode, and from Victoria and Mariel as well. So we learn along the way too. It's about a collective effort, and if people weren't able to speak and have the support from all of the things that happen, from the Empty Cradle, from Gateway Women, and all the other people that are doing amazing things, then there wouldn't be a podcast, because there wouldn't be a voice, because nobody would want to say something. So it's a collective effort that we're only here because of everybody else's work, because everybody else's work gives people that bravery, and also people themselves have that strength and bravery to come onto the podcast and be a guest, because it's not the easiest thing to do. It's not. I would imagine. I mean, I've been a podcast guest a couple of times, and it's daunting. Even though I'm here doing this, it's still a bit scary doing that. It's not easy to do, but I hope that we make it as welcoming as possible for everybody.
Yeah,
I was going to ask you if it. Sorry.
That's sorry, you go ahead.
I was going to ask you, what have your learnings been? How has it impacted for you in your lives? What's some of the highlights been for you? Yeah.
Okay, I'll go first, because I can edit out all my ums and ahs. That's one of the things I've highlighted, is how many bloody times I and ah. God almighty. The first episode, for me, the first episode we did when we quizzed each other, I really, really enjoyed, because we all picked some questions that were quite, in their own way, were quite incisive. And so we was able to get to know each other quite well in a very short space of time, because we hadn't, I mean, I've met Berenice once. I haven't met Sarah in the flesh. And so that was really, really good. But I feel so privileged to be part of this, because let me tell you, it's the two girls that actually come up with all the ideas about who we need to get on. I'm just along for the ride. I realise that my position here is to learn and to expose myself to things that I would not normally do. So as a guy, I wouldn't get exposed to a conversation of two lesbian women. I wouldn't get exposed. Where would I get the chance to get exposed to that? I wouldn't get exposed to a conversation around Black Lives Matter from Black people's perspective. I would never get exposed to that. And not that I don't want to, but you, Sarah Roberts, that our community here is, Black people are very, very, very small minority at the moment. So for me, I just feel extremely privileged, and it's really hard to narrow it down to one thing. But what I can say is that it's been such an enriching experience. And from a personal level too, it's also helped me to understand my own feelings as well. I remember a conversation that we had, Jodie, and it may have been one of the very first times that we actually talked, and I was making light of showing emotion and crying, and you pulled me up one day and just said something similar to, there is nothing wrong with that, Michael. And I've taken that on board, and as much as I knew that, I've taken that on board, and through our podcast, I've allowed my feelings to, as you can probably tell, to rise. And so I've always said that I just hope I'm a good example for other guys, and I hope that part of me is also a good example. So, yeah. Sorry if I didn't answer your question exactly, Sarah, but that's perfect. Yeah, that's how I feel. That's what it is for me. Yeah.
And one of the things I love about what you bring to it, Michael, is that you give men permission to feel. Like, you're somebody that is so relatable as a bloke, but then you give this incredibly rich, you open up this space for men to have their stories heard, but also for them for the whole of them to show up. So they don't have to, they drop the facade and they can be whole and real and deeply connected. And you're such a leader in the space around that, which is just so beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I've learned loads from you, Michael, actually. I think you've given us the opportunity to get the bloke's perspective, because I'll be honest with you, it's taken a while, I think, for guys to talk about it. And so you've given out that side of the community permission to talk about it. And you put together the Clan of Brothers, which again gives guys permission to get together and not necessarily talk about it, but at least have a space where they're with a bunch of blokes that get it. Because you explained last time, didn't you, that guys and women have a different experience, and you've given them something that perhaps hasn't been available.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been interesting just from the male's perspective. As I say, we're a hard nut to crack, and yeah, it's one of the things I'm beginning to realise, and I know that you've talked about this a lot, Jodie, is this whole idea about a vocabulary. And so not that mine's all that big anyway, but should have paid more attention at school. But I realised that I can do that in some respects through a story, which I'm bloody full of, as you know. But that's how best I can tell the way I'm feeling, by trying to just get someone in the moment by a story, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
The other thing I've noticed that you do for the community, Michael, which probably hasn't been articulated, I actually think you really help. And I know there's incredible diversity for people in the community, and there's people who are single and people who are partnered, and really diverse relationships that people have within the community. But I think one of the things that you do is that you assist women who are in relationships, in relationships with men, to really get a feel for what the experiences might have been like for their partner. And it's such a healing function that you serve, in terms of really allowing women in the community to kind of have, like, I listen to you talk, and I really have had some aha moments in my own relationship. And one of the really big examples for me is when I listened to you on the Unripe podcast, and it actually hadn't ever occurred to me how deeply intrusive fertility treatment can be for men. which is, you know, I find it staggering that I hadn't quite gotten to that point, but it was always a little bit of a joke, men's participation in that process. Whereas when I listened to you, I went, oh my God, like, yeah, of course, this is a deeply intrusive experience. And I think it's really important that it really humanizes the complexity of each of our journeys. So thank you. Yeah.
Well, thanks. Hi, Victoria. We're joined by Victoria Firth now as well.
Hello.
And happy
Morning.
birthday.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
It's lovely to have you here, Victoria. How are you keeping? How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. It's an interesting weather day here today. We've got like lots of snow on the hills, but bright sunshine. So,
You've got snow. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we've got all the weathers today.
It's lovely to have you here.
Yeah, nice to come and say hello again.
Yes, yeah. I don't know who else is turning up. It's going to be quite interesting because we just had this sort of open house invite. So we are recording at the moment, just so that you're aware. So we're on record. Michael can edit that part out, but yeah. So we were answering Sarah's question about what the podcast has taught us. Sarah, do you want to answer? Sarah Lawrence, Sarah.
Oh God, excuse me, stage fright. Yeah, no, loads. I think for me, I mean, we always said, didn't we? I was the least furthest on. Is that right? In terms of where I was when we started the pod, and I think that comes across in some of the episodes where I'm particularly sweary, because when I get angry, or when I get naffed off, or when I get emotional, I get angry and sweary. And I think as time has gone on, actually, I realised that it's all right to feel that way. Actually, it's all right to be bloody angry or whatever comes up, or upset or whatever. And I think a bit like Michael, I was very shut down and I think I've changed as the episodes. That first episode where we're asking each other questions, you can kind of hear me trying to hide in plain sight. It's like, no, I don't want to answer that. But now I'm just like, oh, whatever. If I turn up naffed off, you know it. If I turn up, I'm all right, you know it. But I think that's the steepest learning curve. And I think having you two as well on the chat, the messenger, you know, we think, oh, I'm having a bad day, or one of you will put in that you're having a bad day, and we've kind of got each other's backs. And I really like that, because I've not had that before, not even in the community. You know, it's kind of felt like I was doing it on my own, and now I've got, you know, two people in my corner when I'm feeling a bit fed up or whatever. Yeah, like the boxing, yeah, isn't it? But yeah, no, I've loved every minute, and I wouldn't change it for the world. What about you, Bernice? You knew it was coming.
I know, I kept putting it off. It's a brilliant question, Sarah. Such a good question. Oh gosh. It's such a hard one to answer, because I think I was sort of getting a bit gobby anyway when we started the podcast. I think I'd been through a few things and been through a few experiences where I felt that maybe I had something to add to the conversation, but I didn't know how, because I'm a complete introvert and I struggled to articulate anything about my story. It was like I'd sort of, the language had stopped somewhere along the line, and the only way I could get it out was if I was sort of being creative or writing it down through some sort of other narrative. I couldn't do it. You know, Walk in Our Shoes is all about words. It's about pictures and words, and there's very little in the way of video or anything on there. So I was struggling to get the words out, but I knew if I got the words out, I'd probably feel an awful lot better about it, but I didn't know how to do it. And I think the weekend down in London when I met Michael, and we've been to the Fertility Fest, and I stood there on the stage at the Shepherd's Bush, and there's a little Petra Kutcher, so it's 6 minutes and 40 seconds I think you get for one of those. And I realised that my words made a bit of a difference. You know, people were coming up to me saying, "Oh, well, you did so," because I'd hidden behind the scenes, like with World Child this week. Okay, yeah, I can do all the pretty stuff, that's fine, but I'm going to sit in the background. That's okay. I'm fine with that. You know, and as Steph needed me, I'd be there, but I wasn't necessarily driving that, because I thought, oh, what I've got to say isn't necessarily important. And I still feel like that with the podcast. I'll be honest and say that often, frequently on the podcast, I will come away and I will still say, did I actually say anything useful? I often wonder that I don't, but I just try the best that I can. I often feel like I'm the least qualified person to sit here and do a podcast, but that's just me and who I am, and I will always feel like that. It just is who I am. But I've learned that, yeah, same as you, Sarah, I think I've learned that I've got two people in my corner, lifelong friends, and I think that I just think we're just so bloody lucky to have that friendship, and also that learning from everybody. I mean, every guest that we've ever had on the podcast, I have been entertained by, moved by. I've absolutely adored everybody that's been on the podcast. There's not ever been one guest where I thought, oh, we wouldn't have them back. I loved everybody, because everyone's got something to share, and it's so interesting. I've learned so much, and I think it's made it, I feel like I've learned so much more about why we're all here, because we're all here for so many different reasons, and every story is valid. And by seeing that everybody else's story is valid, you start to think, oh, your mine's valid too. I'm here legitimately for a reason, and I went through some really, really crap stuff, that I actually can now talk about in a safe environment, in the hope that it actually helps one other person. If it just helps one other person, then that's all I really worry about. I just want to make sure that, you know, somebody else goes out there and they can look and they can go, oh, okay, all right, oh, I didn't know about, and I don't know how anyone would not know about Gateway Women, but I did not know about Gateway Women. I can now go and I can look at Gateway Women and I can get the support that they need, which is the support that I got way back when I thought, oh God, there's nothing. So people then be facilitated, and I think that's how I see the podcast almost as being, perhaps sometimes I think it's too much like a facilitating thing, and I try to distance myself from the emotion, because I think and I'm feeling myself going now, it's terrible. I hold it together, Berenice, you can do this. I think if I focus too much on the emotion and the enormity of it, I think I would probably, yeah, like you say, Sarah, often stage fright, because it just is overwhelming. When I look at the figures, the amount of downloads that we've got and the amount of subscribers that we have, it's just like, wow, okay. And it's not about those numbers. It doesn't matter. I mean, if we just had one subscriber, one listener, that's okay. That's fine. The fact that we're reaching something like 10,000 downloads, we are 10,000 downloads now. Oh, gosh, that's a hell of a lot of people. I think that's quite amazing. It's quite overwhelming.
Yes, it reminds me of the conversations that we have behind the scenes when I'll say, have a look at this map, so we can see where all of our listeners are from, and guaranteed Sarah and Berenice will just clam up and just, wow. Wow.
We're terrible. We just find the whole thing a bit kind of like, I find it kind of just odd that somebody wants to listen to something I've got to say, but I think also that, I think it's something that I was talking about maybe with Steph, or perhaps it was with you, Jodie. All these conversations that we have, so many conversations, but it was a conversation about why people do something like this. And I don't feel that I do this in order for accolades, which is why probably I'm sitting here wriggling on my chair in uncomfortableness, because it's so difficult. I think if anyone comes into doing a podcast, or anyone comes into any sphere, I think within the childless Not by Choice community, to do something for the accolades and awards, I don't think that works, because it's the wrong approach for me. I think it's all about support and about friendship and about love and about, giving people a chance to say something they may not have said before, because we've got reviews, we have testimonials, and the figures are there. But it's not about those, because people dip in, dip out. I wouldn't expect anyone listening to this podcast to ever listen to all of the episodes that we've ever done, because there might be one that resonates, or two or three, or a subject they think, oh yeah, that's the one that I want to listen to. I never expect us to have subscribers. Because I thought, really? I mean, because I thought people just thought 1 or 2 episodes would work, not every thing. And I think that's quite amazing, because I've never sort of experienced that before.
Well, I told you the other day, didn't I? I had someone was coming to work with me, and they went, "Oh, it's you," and I went, "Oh shit, what have I done?" And she went, "It's you off the podcast." And I went, "Oh yeah, right, let's skip over that."
You contacted me on Messenger and went, "Oh my God, someone knew me from the podcast." And I get that sometimes, particularly in Gateway Women. People go, "Oh, it's you on the podcast." And I'm like, yeah. Oh. Oh, yeah. Yes, I'm podcast. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, okay.
I was puce on Zoom. I just like, zoop. I was like, oh no, can we talk about something else? But you're right, it's not about accolades. For me, it's about helping people find a voice when they need it. You know, it might be that they stumble over us. It might be, you know, they're fighting Gateway Women, or, you know, they might see one of Victoria's plays and go, there's a community out there for me. There's somebody that knows what I've been through. It's not about me being in the spotlight. It's about helping people find their tribe, which is what I needed when I first went looking for and found Gateway Women. That's just what you're looking for, isn't it? It's like, I don't fit anywhere else. My life has fallen apart. Where do I go now? Where do I fit? And that's all it's ever been about, really, for me.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is that. And I think that's where the diversity of the episodes helps. I mean, I absolutely loved the episode that we did with you, Victoria. It was just so incredible, and so this is so. And I think what got to me about the episode was that there is just so much that needs to be said, that needs to happen, that more things need to be said and to be talked about. We'll have to have you back to talk to us again, because I loved learning with you, and it was the first time I think we'd ever really, last year, because I mean the pandemic hit us quite hard in terms of a podcast, because we'd planned everything, as Michael says. Sarah and I, we planned stuff out, and you do contribute to that, Michael, because you know everyone. Michael knows everybody. He befriends everyone, so we often send Michael out on like a scouting mission to go and find people, and it became really clear that we needed to change what we were doing. And so Yvonne's episode, Black Lives Matter, and talking about that, then led to the episode that we did with you, Victoria, because we thought, well, we can just hand the podcast over. Let's just do something different, because we'd always struggled with the fact that, 3 white heterosexual presenters, and there is so much more to our community than just 3 white heterosexual presenters. You know, and you can't cover every single thing. And with Michael, we felt we had that one big tick, in the sense of, you know, not that you want to say you tick boxes, because I think that's just wrong. It's organic in the way that we do things, but that of course we needed to have that voice way back then with Michael on male infertility, what it's like to be a man with childlessness. But actually that this community was so brilliant and so amazing that we could actually just say, okay, you know, I met you once briefly, I think, Victoria, at the Barbican, and very briefly with Muriel, but I knew her anyway through conversations with Gateway Women. And it was a case of, okay, let's get you on, let's just riff this and let's just talk about this, because, and that's just the amazing thing about a podcast. It's brilliant like that.
Yeah, and I was, when you were talking earlier, you were talking about like the validity of your story, or do you have anything to offer? And like I had real imposter syndrome about doing that episode, because, you know, it was for the LGBTQ plus community, and I'm like, well, you know, I just have one experience of my own kind of sexuality in relation to childlessness, and I feel like I don't, you know, I can't represent a whole community, and, you know, is my story valid? And And I kind of have some understanding of imposter syndrome from being an artist, because you always, when you're putting something out there, you're always wondering if, you know, does it have value? Is it any good? Like over lockdown, I've been doing a lot of workshops for artists on self-care, and I'm really interested in it as an area. But every time I go to do one of those workshops, I think, well, I'm not an expert, you know, I'm not trained as a therapist, or, you know, I wouldn't even know how you become an expert in this. And an artist friend of mine, Ellie Harrison, says that she always does her interactions as if it's about citizen to citizen learning. And I don't know if there's a lineage to where that phrase came from, but it's like, I'm not here as an expert, I'm here as a human being, and you're here as a human being, and so I have something to share, and you have something to share, and maybe by that, as doing that together, you know, we go somewhere different, you know, and we learn something. And I've found that as you know, has given me a lot of permission to say, in that example, I'm really interested in well-being now, and how do we take care of ourselves better, you know. And I'm not here as an expert, I'm here as somebody who's practicing living with this. And, you know, I think it's maybe the same with the childless community, is that, you know, we only have like one story, but they are all valid, and, you know, it's all part of, I don't know, kind of, you know, we're here, we're practicing in it, you know, and maybe, you know, there's value in being with other people and talking about that.
I love that, citizen to citizen, because I can absolutely, I think from the point of view of my artistic work, still actually is on hiatus. You know, I'll do stuff here, but I don't go out publicly with anything, because I just still have that kind of sense of just, oh God, no, don't think that I've got a place at the table. And it comes to that sort of thing. So I can absolutely see where that comes from, Victoria, in that sense of, yeah, okay, I don't know. And yeah, I think, what's my qualification for being here? And I think the qualification, yeah, it's about, citizen to citizen. It's about our experiences and sharing it. That's just so insightful, really insightful. Thank you.
Hi, Victoria. It's absolutely lovely to see you again. On the screen still, but it's lovely to see you. I really love that expression, citizen to citizen, as well, because it really takes me back to the early days of Gateway Women. And before Gateway Women, I spent quite a few years in the 12-step meeting. I was, after the breakdown of my marriage, mostly due to my then husband's addiction issues, I spent a lot of time in a 12-step group called Al-Anon, which is for friends and families of addicts and alcoholics. And there's a lot of it in my family and in my family system. And in those meetings, no one was an expert except on their own lives. And I really discovered the power of peer-to-peer healing. And also the way that the 12-step kind of movement is set up is that there's a sense that no one is an authority, but sometimes some people have responsibilities for the group. And then you kind of share and you move around those responsibilities. So no one ends up being a leader. No one's ego gets sort of to be in charge of everything. It's an amazing system. And within that system, I kind of found my place and got past my imposter syndrome, because I began to realize that I had something to bring, you know, that I didn't have to know everything, but what I had to bring, which was my personal experience. And when I shared my personal testimony, it always helped someone else, because there was something in my story that they hadn't heard articulated before, but sort of resonated with a part of their story. And then they felt heard and seen. And all of us were doing that. And so we all ended up feeling heard and seen. And I don't think I would ever have had the courage to put together that first Gateway Women group had I not had those few years in 12-step groups. So I thought, what do I know about childlessness? I'm completely underwater. I'm deep in my grief. I'm so struggling. And I thought, no, I don't have to be healed, and I don't have to be an expert. I need to create a safe space and a structure. And then maybe the magic will happen, you know, and it did. And I just wish so many more of us, as you have discovered through your work, could have a chance to discover the power of showing up and sharing what we know as being so powerful for others. You know, we live in a society which kind of really predicates everything on being an expert, on having the answer. But that's so not necessarily how human society progresses, you know. So I just want to say, you know, how much I admire you and your work, and I love it. And I love that series you were doing on self-care. And the video that really comes to mind is that amazing one you did all around touching your hands and really getting back in touch with your own body, which was so well received by so many of the single members of the Gateway Women community who have been so starved for touch in the pandemic. So thank you for your work.
Thank you, Jodie. Thank you. It's been strange in the pandemic, sort of putting, I guess you were doing it all the time with the podcast, but putting things out virtually, because when there's not a live, when there's a live audience, you get like immediate feedback, but putting things out, you know, online is quite new for me, and it's always, you always wonder how it's been received. So thanks for that.
Yeah, I just want to echo Jodie's comment, and I think your work is amazing, Victoria. I've been watching your videos and I just think they're incredible. Really, really lovely. We'll put a link to them into the show notes, because I think they're just so invaluable to people as well. And the hand touching was just amazing. I was just like, oh, I hadn't really thought about that. And it was just learn so much from you and what you do. We're joined by Leslie Pine. Hi, Leslie.
Press the unmute button first. Yes, hello. Lovely to be here, and it was really interesting listening to what you were saying, Jodie. Isn't it that power of showing up and sharing? That's what we bring. We all bring to the party, isn't it? You know, and I always think, you know, that of my path won't be your path, but there is a path there, and yeah, I mean, and we're all doing that in our different ways, and I think that again, that's that. You know, let's all share how it is for how our life is, and how we got here is different, and that just gives people so many options and so many, just to see people living a lovely life. I'm in a couple of weeks' time. I'm doing a group with Kate Bryan for Infertility Network UK about people. What's it coming to the end of treatment, and Kate was saying, somebody in her group has said, I follow Leslie on Instagram, she's so inspiring, and that just means so much, doesn't it, for all of us, you know, that what we're doing is just sort of leading the way, showing what's possible at the end of it. So yeah, and I'm really, really great to be here, so thank you. Yeah.
Okay, we're just riffing, it's all you know what we like. You've been a guest, you know what it's like.
Exactly. Why not? And you've got better at it over the time since when you interviewed me, I guess.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. We need to go back and look at everything again. I'm in the process of going back through all of the old episodes at the moment, because of other ideas that we're doing.
Yes.
And there's a lot of stuff we're like, oh, okay, yeah. So I think we've grown. I think we've got a little bit more well versed in the balance, but yeah, it's still a bit like, I love the idea that it's like being in a pub. I just think that was one of the best things that I had read, because it's exactly the kind of vibe that I think we perhaps set out to. No, I don't know. Did we set out to do that, Sarah, Michael? Was that the vibe?
No, that makes us sound professional. No, not at all.
Can I ask you guys a question then? And I know I didn't put it on the email. I was just thinking about it this morning. I guess what would be the one thing that you've learnt from the podcast, from the people that you've interviewed over the years? Silence. Stand silent.
Oh,
sorry.
One thing. Leslie, that's cruel.
It is a bit, isn't it? I'm sorry.
God.
Oh, one thing.
It could be more than one, or a main thing.
It could be a very long list if you let us go with that one.
Whatever you like. Yeah.
God. I think actually one thing that I think I've learned from the people and from the podcast, and it's something that I want to get better at, is the art of listening. Because I think that what we can do so often is that we can want to, I think, I'd like to think that the podcast gives an example in how not to fix. And I know that there are friends of mine who are parents who listen to it and have learned a bit from that too, that it's not having to fix things. And that with trying not to fix, you end up having to then listen. And I would like to think that we've given a place where people can listen. They obviously have to listen to us. Sorry about that. But you're listening to us and what we're talking about and our guests talking about. But we in turn listen to our guests, so we then learn. Because I think so often we can, with social media, it's about talk, show this, that, everything. Look at this, look at me. And if you're on your own, or if you're feeling isolated in a community, and I think that goes across broadly, I would say everybody, because we all come from a point where we thought we were going to be something, and part of this great kind of paternal kind of movement where we'd be part of the crowd down at the play park and at the school gates, and then suddenly you're not, and you're isolated wherever you come from. Then trying to be heard is one thing, but also having someone just to listen to you, or to have someone, or to have something that you can listen to that gives you some hope, or gives you the tools to go and do something else. So I think I've probably learned listening, and it's something that I feel I want to get better at. Because it's very difficult with a podcast sometimes when you're doing a podcast and you've got the gaps, and you're trying to get the best out of all of your guests. And luckily we have brilliant guests who give us their best. I know that they give us our best, because you can tell when you're sitting here on Zoom in this awkward kind of Zoomy way, and you don't know quite what's going on, but you can see that emotion, and you try to give people the best, but also getting the best from ourselves as well, from the three of us. So listening.
Oops, well done for going first.
I didn't last time. When Sarah asked about what we. I was the last one. I was just like, yeah, Michael can go first, and then Sarah, and Olga. So I felt kind of like, yeah, okay, all right, I better go first.
We'll go next, Michael.
Drop right in it. I'm going to echo Berenice actually, but I'm going to bring you into it, Sarah, because I've said it time and time again. I sit here and take in as much as I can. I feel like I'm a bit of a sponge. With Victoria and Muriel, when would I know I've said this previously, but when would I get a chance to be part of a conversation like that? So I feel that being able to just sit there and listen to that and be okay with that has been something for me. But then with Sarah Lawrence over here, who has this fantastic ability to ask. She needs to be on TV with the way that she brings into questions, because I'm forever gobsmacked about where did that come from. It's like, but I know where it comes from. She's listening and she's paying attention, and I love that. So what have I learned? That yes, listening is okay, and I want to be more like Sarah.
Michael, I'm just nosy. Genuinely.
Yeah, but so am I. But I don't do that. I don't come up with them. They're brilliant. Some of those questions you have are brilliant.
Oh, right. Thank you. I am nosy. I'm just really curious about people. And I think, for me, the best thing I've learned actually is the lack of hierarchy that we have in our community. I remember the first time, like when we started, the first couple of episodes we did with authors, and Berenice said, yeah, we're going to get Tessa in, we're going to talk to Jodie, and I was like, shit, I just felt this overwhelming stage fright. Oh my God, there's authors, shit. And then Victoria writing plays, and Leslie's written a book, and I was just like, oh my God. And then they came on the podcast, and they were just people who happened to share an aspect of my story, and it was just like, those first two episodes were you know, I felt like I was, you know, flying by the seat of my pants. But actually, because there was no hierarchy and there was no, well, this, you know, it's just, this is my story. And I was like, I chime with this. I get these people, I understand them. And that for me was the best learning curve, because I think if there'd been any sniff of hierarchy, I'd been like, exit stage left. This is not something I'd be able to cope with. So that for me was the best thing, you know, being part of a community where the hierarchy just isn't there. Suits me down to the ground. So yeah. Hi, Robin.
Hi, Robin.
Hi, Robin.
Hi everyone. Sorry for being late.
We're literally people. Leslie's just joined. It's an open house. People can join when they want. So welcome.
Hi.
You're fashionably late.
Yeah.
Not the only fashion thing I'll ever be.
Hey, Robin, have you had your hair cut yet?
Oh wow!
No, you still got the man bun. Cool.
Yeah.
We're in a competition, me and Robin.
What, the biggest bun?
Does my bun look big in this?
Mine does.
When hasn't it? Mine.
We'll see you soon, Jodie. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Jodie.
It's been lovely, Jodie.
Nice to see you.
Thanks for sharing. From the heart. I've moved. Changed as a person forever. New horizons, everything.
I wanted to add to that the question that you had, Leslie, about what we've learned. I think the other thing I wanted just to that popped into my head, I knew I'd have a second one, is about vibe and about. I think that's just so. I don't know. That's a big thing, I think, for the three of us, because when Michael and Sarah have never met in person, and I've met them both separately, which I think is a bit kind of odd, but actually it just works. I think that I think my advice to anyone that's thinking, oh, do I want to do a podcast? I think, and we've had that conversation. I've a few times people have asked in different communities that I've been in about, well, I've got an idea for a podcast. I think I'd like to do a podcast, and it is great. And I think all podcasts in any sphere are welcome if they're right. But I just get on with it. I think do it. Just go out, do it, try it and see. Most podcasts end at 8 episodes. That's one fact that I learned. So once we got to episode 9, I was like, oh, thank God for that. We've done that bit. Anything else after this is a bonus. We've broken the that sort of myth. And don't worry about audio and stuff. It's the vibe, you know, and professionalism doesn't matter that much either. It's about who you have, it's about who's presenting it with you, and the fact that you can just go through it, because you can always edit. I mean, you know, we learn these things. None of us came to the podcast with any kind of particular skills. Just, you know, riff it. See what happens, but do it. Just do it and see what happens. Sit there. Don't worry about the microphone. All computers have microphones. Don't worry about it. I mean, there's better ones, and there's, you know, I have a microphone now. Now Michael has one too, and so there's all, you know, stuff that we've got since. Do it. Record it. Invite some people along if you want to, or whatever. Invite friends along. Don't invite people you don't know to start with. Invite some. We madly invited people we didn't know, but we just went with it because we thought we'll probably be all right. But, you know, if you're nervous, invite anybody along. Invite someone you know. Then you've got a conversation going. See what gives. See what happens at the end of it. And if it works out and it's what you want it to be, then you've got something. Do it. You know.
And just be yourself as well, isn't it? Don't try and be somebody you're not, I guess.
Yeah, be your authentic self.
Yeah.
Be who you are. Just walk through everything. And I say you can edit it. I mean, just go with it, riff it, you know, and take some bits out. But be you. Yeah, it's amazing how easy it is to do. But really, truthfully, and people sit there, oh yeah, and it's time intensive. I mean, I think probably the booking, the guests, and the organising, the actual organising bits take probably more time, I think. Do it. Be brave. Just give it a go. Someone will listen. They will.
Yeah, and don't, I think, also don't be too, don't be too much pressure on yourself. I remember a conversation that we might have had in the beginning about swearing. Do we swear? Are we allowed to swear? What do we do? What do we do?
That went for ages, didn't it? We were really worried about
And then,
that.
and then we just, fuck it. Let's just swear.
See, you swore. You never swear. You're like the least sweary of the three of us.
Yeah.
No, I do.
Not often.
I'll just put it
Not
out.
often.
Well, no, you do swear sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
But
As
I
I
don't
said,
notice it. I'm probably immune to it. I don't know why.
As I said before, I'm in Australia. I mean, every second word's a swear word.
Mm.
Sarah Roberts, is that true?
Yeah, can you verify?
Yeah.
Yes. Fuck yes.
Oh, that's brilliant.
It is a question though of which accent a swear word sounds better in. Like I think that's a very wide open debate, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
think posh accent's quite good, but in England, you got so many accents here in the
Yeah.
UK. I mean,
Well, I've had this debate with a friend actually, and my friend was incredibly posh, and fuck as a posh word sounds incredibly good, but with my accent, it's take your pick, innit, really? Especially when I've had a few.
I think Robin probably swears quite well, and Leslie too, I think. They've got
Yeah,
good
but-
accents, quite strong accents, both of you have.
Go on, Rob, give it a go.
Are we going to broadcast this?
We can edit it.
You might not want to swear. This is the thing. I mean, I'm not in the mood for it at all. I don't think I could probably swear right now if I tried to. I'm just not. I could want to go for a bloody, but that would be about it. I'm not in the same zone as the rest of you.
Well, I think my favourite expression is "for fuck's sake." So I use that almost every time I do anything, really.
Yeah, I've got a mug with that on. So at Christmas, my husband was I said I wanted a Keith Brymer Jones. So anyone that's listening watches Great Prostrate Throwdown, then Keith Brymer Jones is one of the judges with the funny hair, and he cries a lot. But he does nice big bucket-sized mugs. So I said, you can buy me a mug from there. That's what I'd like for Christmas. But you've got to choose the phrase. So on the website, if you go on there, they've got things like goddess, and other things like that. Amazing woman, all these sorts of things. Wife is one of them, and stuff. And there's a few parental ones, as you'd expect, but there we go, blah blah. And so what did he come up with? He got one that says FFS on it, for fuck's sake, and that's the mug I got. And I said, oh, okay, all right. Not goddess status yet then. It's very disappointing. I'm a bit annoyed about that. Got a long way to go.
Do you think you had it and lost it, or you're working your way up?
Oh, I don't think I'm anywhere near it, don't worry. We've been married for 25 years in September. If I haven't got it by now, then I never had it at all, and I don't think I ever will. I'm not sure I really want that, actually, though. I'm keep it real.
Mm.
Yeah, keep it real. Mm. I'm going to buy Rob one of those questions now.
Oh, sorry.
That's a good idea.
Go on, Sarah.
I was going to ask if you're ready for us to fire another question at you.
Go for it. Yeah.
We might not answer.
I'll cut out the pauses. Don't worry.
Yeah, I've got a question too.
Okay.
Do you want to go, Victoria? Have you got a question?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can do. I guess my question is, like when I was thinking about making my own childlessness visible through doing a theatre piece about it, one of the things that really concerned me was, like, I didn't want it to define me. Like, I didn't want it to become a label that was then that then made my life really singular. And you mentioned earlier, Berenice, like how long the podcast's gone. You went past 8 episodes and then it was 9, and then, and it's been like a really long running thing. And might say something about my own journey to if I use phrases like how you move on, or how you get past your childlessness, like maybe that's or how you feel about being visible or invisible. I guess there's like a lot in there to unpack another time, but I just wondered what it was like, you're developing your life really, but while the podcast is still running, has it in any way kind of limited how you've grown other aspects of your life, or has it supported it? Is that a kind of clear question?
It's a very clear question, and it's a really, really good one, because, and I do want to jump in first, if that's all right, Sarah and Michael, to answer, because I was in the local paper last week. Get that in Cambridgeshire. It's got quite a high. It's the good paper. There's 2 papers in our city, and it's the good one, the nice one, the one that everyone actually wants to read, because it does report local things, not just anyway. And I was very conscious that I was talking publicly on my own doorstep about my journey, and that my family would read this, or might read it. In fact, actually, I gave them the links to it. So I know that they have read it, and they went out and bought copies of it. And I'll unpack that one on another episode. It's not for here, but another time. But I'm very conscious of that, because my identity has always been as a designer. So I've always said from the very start, even when we were trying for children, even before that, even when I was at school, I remember being at school and watching boring careers videos thinking, well, I don't know what I want to do, because the only thing I'm good at school is art and English. And I remember seeing the video of a commercial artist, a graphic designer, and thinking, that's what I want to do. And I claim that identity, and I talk about it on my website for my business. And that's who I am. It's my master's degree. It's what I've always done. So I've got this thing where I'm running a business. Hello Lovely. It's a design business. It's the thing that I identify with the most. And then there's this other hat, the Full Stop podcast. To a degree, there's Walk in Our Shoes, because that came out of my master's degree. So I exhibited Walk in Our Shoes. The first time it ever was a public thing was at my master's exhibition for design. So it's all really, really complicated for me. And I'm very, very careful about keeping a balance. But what I found is that in some of the business networks that I belong to, and they're all sort of non-networky things, they're all very relaxed and very informal. And if anyone has to do these kind of like those creeping death introductions, and I don't join the business networks, I won't do that kind of thing. I think they're just awful, but it's very informal. And I don't know that I have an answer to the question, Victoria, but I kind of feel like I sort of am somewhere sort of struggling to unpack that. But in talking about my journey in these networks, or just a little kind of like, oh, well, no, I don't have children and it's not by choice. Literally just that line, when people went, oh, okay. And I found that it wasn't as hard as I thought it was to say those words to people in these business networky things, that they were actually, okay. And actually by saying it, and actually talking about the podcast, because I will often ask them, like, I've got an issue with the podcast, and I think I've got a thing, but I'm not quite sure. What do you think? Just to get some feedback from them, because it might be something to do with a businessy thing, like something problem with the website, or maybe to do with Apple or something. And I'll answer it, but I've obviously gone public about the fact I did this podcast. It's all about childlessness and not by choice. And do I want to really be doing that? Should I be doing a podcast about design? Maybe that I didn't. And life's too short, and I'm going to have hours in the day. But people have become aware of it. And what I found is that there is someone that I know, Anne Hawkins, who runs Drive the Network, who is a mother, and her son is in Canada. He's growing up now. But she nominated us for the Digital Women Awards. She's not a great fan of podcasts, I have to say. She openly admits that. But she felt that what we were doing was so important that it deserved a recognition. And a lot of people who are parents that I know within this community have said, it's just brilliant what you're doing. You are doing something, and I am learning from you. So sometimes muddling up those identities can help a little. But it's complicated, and I'm not sure that I'm settled with it yet. I feel settled. If I didn't do the design for the podcast and things, I would probably be a little bit more unsettled, but I have a place within the three of us and what I do and with the website. But yeah, it's a bloody good question. Michael.
What again?
I went first. Oh no. Oh yeah, no, he's in us. Maybe it's Sarah.
That's all right. Sarah, would you like to go next, or would you like me to?
No, you go for it.
Oh, take that one. Okay. Again, good job. I can cut out these pauses. I'm just. What I want to say is that no, it doesn't stunt the rest of my life. My wife and I have a conversation. We have two very different people. That's probably why we, it's that whole yin yang thing, I think, because we are so different. She's very introverted and very extremely empathetic. So she finds it very hard to engage with our community because even though she's okay, she doesn't have the capacity to take on the rest of the world's woes, if you will, because that's just too much for her. And that's just the way she is. So she needs to keep it, she's very conscious about her boundaries. So she often says to me, how do you do this? What, and my answer, of course, is, well, I'm not like you. I'm empathetic, but I've chosen to look at this as a positive thing, where in my own small way, I can try and make a difference. And again, it's a multi-leveled thing. I studied psychology. Never bloody finished the degree though. But anyway, we'll unpack that one later. But one of the things it did teach me was that given the same stimulus, we, on the whole, normal people, will have relatively the same reaction. So if when we were at our lowest and everyone would have been the same, it gives me confidence to know that what I felt, other people felt. And so therefore now on the other side of that, we're doing okay. We manage our grief. It's not going to be it's always going to be there, as we all know. But just be an example for people, like Leslie was saying, just be an example to people. You can show people that there is something good out there. And that's what I like about the podcast, is we're a conduit for everyone else. We was a little bit uncomfortable when we first started this session today, because we get Sarah and Jody were throwing compliments at us left, right and centre, and we're just like, we're talking about us, because we see the podcast is not about us, it's about you. And we've just built a vehicle, as Berenice said earlier, we've built a vehicle for us all. And so, yeah, it's not, it hasn't restricted me. It's actually enriching my life. As I've said just earlier, before you, Victoria and Yvonne turned up, I said, where the hell would I get the chance to be part of a conversation, with you, Victoria and Muriel? Where would that wouldn't happen to get such an, personal, intense conversation. And where would I get in a conversation of, with you, Yvonne, and your friends that you brought along to the podcast? I would never get the chance to have such an intimate conversation with such a big group of women of colour. I loved it, and it made me cry, but I loved it because it's also, this whole gig is teaching me so much more about being a human being. Your go, Sarah.
bloody hell, how do I follow that up, for Christ's sake? Oh man. So in answer to the question, I don't think it's stunted me either. I think actually it's something I often say to clients. Actual fact, I think childlessness and it takes a long time to realise this, actually it develops us individually and as a community, because you don't live vicariously through another human being. You have to spend that time working your own shit out and dealing with everything that childlessness throws at you. So actually, no, I think I have grown. And I think if you'd met me in my 20s, I was very shy, very introverted, painfully introverted. When I got embarrassed, it wasn't just my face that went red, it was my ears. And they used to call me a red wing nut at school, which unfortunately, because I had short hair, just sort of, and they was like, oh, red wing nut. So yeah, I was crippled with introversion. But now I'm kind of like the same. The podcast isn't really about me. I swear a lot, you know, I am who I am because I've worked on my shit. And when I'm a counsellor, this is the way I work. I don't have to pretend to be somebody. So in a way, it has defined me. It's utterly changed me. But for the good, I'd say. You know, I'm more authentic. I have no fucks to give about anybody else's sensibilities. And they get very short shrift if they're going to keep pushing the pronatalism. And I make no apologies for that either. I am very gobby. And I quite like that about myself now. I never used to, but I do like it. But I think meeting so many people through the podcast, like Michael, you know, it makes you a more rounded human being, doesn't it? You see all of these different perspectives. And like you, I would never have been involved in so many of these conversations or have been so privileged to meet so many people. And I love it. I love what we do. And it's because I'm nosy. I like to know about people. That's probably why I'm a counsellor in a weird way, isn't it? But no, for me, it has been defining, but it's taken me a long time to realise it, but in a very positive way. So, and I hope that's the gift we bring to people, that you come to this community perhaps broken, feeling a bit less than, and actually once you get involved and you see all these people and you hear their stories, you think, I'm part of it. I'm not less than. I'm in a wonderful community that doesn't have a hierarchy.
Such an amazing answer.
Thank you. It's a really good question. Thank you.
It was a really good question.
Yeah, really, all amazing thoughts. Yeah, thank you for answering that.
Okay. Good morning, Yvonne.
Oh.
All of our guests have joined us and we're in mid kind of like flow about something. How are you?
I am good. I have just come back from a 2-hour bike ride, so I'm tired, energetically tired.
It's a good morning for a bike ride as well. It's cold, but it's just lovely weather. Actually, sun's out.
Absolutely beautiful. And I actually got lost. I feel a blog coming on because I got lost and ended up on a road that I was not familiar with and was riding away. I'm not going to say too much because I definitely want to blog about this because there was a little learning in it for me. But it was a very exciting journey that led me to a new place and a new sense of being on my journey to finding my way back home. That's what I was saying.
Oh, nice. That is a good blog.
So I think Sarah Roberts wanted to ask us another question too.
Robin, Yvonne, drop in whenever you want to. Leslie, just all drop in and ask a question when you want. We'll try to answer. Just riff it. It's fine. Just feel free to interrupt.
So I just had a quick question, which was, I love what you do in the world, because what it is it's, I loved what Sarah was saying about the finding of your tribe. And I think what you do is you show that being childless isn't just a fact of I wasn't able to have kids. It's actually a fundamentally different way of being in the world, and that we actually are we're living lives that are very different from the cultural mainstream, in the incredible diversity that entails. And I guess I was thinking about the way in which you were earlier talking about being really curious, Sarah, and I think that's such an important part of your toolkit in terms of, okay, if this is completely different from how I expected to be in the world, staying open and curious is such a powerful way of engaging with that process. And I guess one of my questions was around really, I guess in the spirit of being curious is what your vision is for the future, either for the podcast or for yourselves or for the community. And I guess I wondered if you had one wild secret dream that maybe you haven't articulated yet, or maybe you don't, but really what your vision is moving forward.
I'm the only one not on mute. Bloody hell.
You are. I'm sorry. I was still having a think.
Okay. This will not be news to Sarah Roberts. I'm going to get it all official now. There are three things that I would like. I hope that the podcast can contribute to. That's what I was looking for. So they are that we can bring our community together. One of the things that I'd like to see in Australia, as an example, is a governing body for our community, so that we can advocate for those who age without children, because that has become a very, very big part of my life right now, because I'm looking after my aging parents, and it's obviously shining a light on what it's going to be like for my wife and I. Also, to look at how we can begin to get more research done for our community, so that research can be used for engaging with government, which I know there are other people doing that, but I guess for Australia, I'd like to hope that the podcast can help us in Australia move that along. And one of the other things is that my wife has this dream about a collective group of childless people living in I don't want to say commune, but something very similar. Because she just goes, how good would it be if we all lived on this property where we each had a little home, so we had all our own little our privacy and our space, but at the same time you knew you could go next door and you could have a conversation with someone who gets you, and someone who can be your friend, and and have that social circle, and take it to the, well, probably not the next level, but it's about 10 levels up. So that's a little secret dreamy thing that I've got.
I love that.
Me too. We talked about the chateau in France and the tower, and probably just turn up.
Oh, we did
and,
too, didn't we?
Right Move as well. That place in Norfolk as well, that was quite good too, but sadly has been sold.
What?
I know. Wrong, isn't it? I thought that maybe the dodgy gnomes outside in the front might put people off, but clearly they didn't. That's a very strange decor inside. Very strange. No pampas grass out front, but you could imagine it was probably there once.
We've got a friend who lives down in Kent, and they've got a field in their garden, and she's talked about building something like that. Also, her other half provides carers for a big chunk of Kent, so I thought, well, that's quite handy, isn't it? It would be quite
good to know,
to get to know for the future. But I think that's a great idea, Michael. Actually, having a bit and something I've thought about. But anyway, sorry for interrupting.
No,
not
not at all. No, you're not. I agree. I think that's probably something I would like. I've often thought about that and the conversations that I've had with Michael, because I thought it was just me that thought like that. And then speaking to Michael and to Vicky, then yes, that's something that I've always wanted to do.
Mm.
Imagine if that was actually like a cruise ship, though, like a childless cruise ship.
Yes.
I see. I couldn't do that because of the carbon. I couldn't do carbon footprint.
A giant sailing ship, maybe.
Yeah, it'd be sailing ship, wind power. Then I might turn out. Otherwise, I'd be like, no. That's like 10 buses, or however many it is. But yeah.
No, we were talking last time, weren't we? Like a music festival for childlessness, weren't we? Out in a field.
Gathering. Yeah, it was a big
a
gathering.
Proper gathering of people when we can actually get back together. That would be amazing.
That would be really good, like a concert, and with Victoria, you have to be there, obviously headline. I feel, but it's something. We had this idea of camper vans all together gathering. It's the episode that's out at the moment, the one with Jodie's. We talk about it. It's in there, isn't it, Michael? I think, if I remember rightly. Yeah, we did add that in. Yeah, we got very carried away. But anyway, gosh, it's difficult. I'm trying to think of an answer because I'm just so glad we got through what we've got through so far, the pandemic, and just returning up, because I think all of us, our mental health suffered last year. I mean, everyone's mental health has been it's all been difficult for everybody. And I think with the podcast, you feel that there's a due diligence that you have to be there to support people. But I certainly lost track of my own mental health and the impact of trying to be all things to all people. So I think probably just being here, getting to however many episodes it is, 27, 2 years, whatever. I think, and the future, I don't know. There's something in my mind about there's a guy I know, Martin, who runs the Purple Goat Agency, which is all about equality for disability. So his job, what he does is he advises agencies and big agencies in all over the world. When they have a campaign for something, he will consult with them and say, okay, this is not diverse enough. You're not doing this in the right way. It's not accessible to people with disabilities. And somewhere in my head, there is something about that and language and how advertisers position their messaging, which I think currently leads to this pronatalism and this drive with parents, that I think that there's something about that in my head that I would like the podcast to be part of. But unfortunately, using pronatal language is not a diversity issue as such at the moment. But I think that through conversations that I've seen in the community where people are starting to go to gender equality conversations. I've got one next month at Cambridge University where they've asked me to talk about inequality and about pronatalism in relation to fertility and fertility policies in the workplace. And those conversations are starting to happen. And it's something we want to talk about on the podcast coming up soon, because I see it from the point of view of being in the workplace, but also in networking groups and in freelance life. I've had to step away from things. I think I said it on the podcast before that I've stepped away from events I've paid for because it's been, oh, my name's so-and-so and I'm a mother and I freelance because it means I got a good work-life balance. I can look after my kids and this is my tips for you. And I think, well, they've got nothing in common with me at all. Why does that matter? Because we can freelance for loads of reasons. Not just because we've had kids, maybe we just got sick of the baby showers at work and oh my God, and the fact that actually we didn't have to then work for maternity leave anymore or paternity leave. We didn't have to do that shit anymore. We didn't have to stay there for however many years is you have to stay there to get some, an extra couple of days off or whatever, and a certificate, I don't know, whatever it is you get for doing these amazingly brilliant. Anyway, so there's something about that, I think, that I'd like the podcast to be part of. I'd also like us to be, when we're back in the world, and we're able to talk to each other, is to hold a massive, great big party to get us all together to do the birthday party we planned to do this year, and to be part of events, to actually be able to go and perhaps onto other podcasts, particularly parenting ones would be good, to actually say from the other side, because I think that I feel that we're in a position, the three of us, where we can actually answer those questions with honesty, and I think without too much in the way of triggering. I might swear a bit though. And I think keep going. I think we've got a whole year. I have to say we have got almost a whole year's worth of episodes, guests lined up. We are now planning February next year. So there's a lot to talk about. So I think we'll just keep going.
Yeah, no, definitely, no, without question. But it's I like the idea of going out and doing the road trip. We've talked about the road trip, haven't we?
Oh yes, you can talk about that. Talk about the road trip.
Thank you.
I'm just going to have to go. So thank you.
Thanks, Leslie. No.
And just thanks so much for opening up all those conversations and getting different people, I think, on the podcast. And because that's so important. When I jumped in, it's that seeing and hearing what it's like. And that's so important and valuable for everybody out there. So thanks for that, and keep going.
We'll have you back, Leslie.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, so road trip, that would be good. But I think for me as well, not just the podcast, I think the mental health side of things for our community is so important, and that's my thing. And I think I want to take ATS a lot bigger. I want to start, I really admire Robin doing all his research and stuff, and that's kind of where I'd like to go with it. And I'd like to sort of set up a charity so everyone has access to mental health, because what I'm finding is that a lot of people can't afford it. So that's kind of where I would like to go, because it's such a huge issue for our community. So yeah, and setting up a network of therapists as well, I think is very important. So yeah, that's mine.
It's brilliant, Sarah. So brilliant.
Never one to bite off more than I can chew.
Oh no, not you. Never.
No, never. Master's next, so yeah.
I think it's actually also inspiring as well, because I'm looking here at the guests that we've got, and you're all here with us. And yeah, Robin, your research, I think, and your just the energy and the time you put into that, but also as well, Yvonne, seeing you on stage at the Fertility Fest at the Barbican, I just you couldn't hear a pin drop. You just are so incredible at what you do as well. I and just all of you here, Sarah, Victoria, it's just amazing. I just think it's just like, I've got so honoured to have you with us. It's just like, oh my God, you've been our guest as well and everything. So thank you.
I know them.
I know these people. They're like, oh my gosh. You know, and I can sit there, and that's the thing. When I've had conversations in groups and things like that, it's all online, isn't it now? But you know, I can say, well, actually, this is Robin Hadley's work, and I know him. He's a friend of mine. You might not think he wants to be a friend of mine, but you are. And again, Yvonne, I can just say, I know Yvonne, and this is what she does, and this is what Victoria does, and this is Sarah Roberts, and she does this fantastic Empty Cradle. These are people you need to know, because we've met you through the podcast, and you are safe hands for us and our community. We know you're safe hands.
I would say the same back for you guys. You know, I'm sitting here hearing, I know Yvonne, and I'm like, what? And it always amazes me, and I feel like a famous person when I hear things like that, and it's like, well, I'm just me. And at the same time, I would say this absolutely the same back, because it's because of you guys, as well as other people that are saying, we need to know Yvonne and need to hear what she's saying, that is giving me the space to actually do what I'm doing. I couldn't do it without you. You know, I could do it once, but I've done it twice and 3 times and 4 times and 5, because you guys are part of that give me the space to have a voice and have my voice be heard and have it be heard amongst a community of people that I would never reach on my own. And I think that's just an amazing thing to be a part of. It's an amazing thing that you've created that, and it's an amazing thing to be a part of. And I sit there because I remember the conversation we had about colour, about being my experience of women of colour, and having the other ladies, my friends, that coming onto the platform as well. And I thought it was an amazing opportunity that we had to have that, and I felt so honoured to be asked, but also was in awe of you guys asking, because you were opening. There are not many spaces that somebody's saying to me, Yvonne, as a black woman, what is your experience? And it's usually I'm just going, hey, you're going to listen to me. This is my experience. You guys asked me that question and asked me to invite my friends on to have this conversation. And, you know, I sit here thinking, so happy that Michael cried, because that's always a goal, to have men cry. It usually helps when they're at my feet and, you know, I'm able to look down and...
We'll do that post-pandemic, Yvonne. Post-pandemic, we'll arrange.
Yeah, I'm going to say there's still time, Yvonne. There's still time.
I know. I'm looking forward to the party. You know, when we're all there. But I also wonder, like, for you guys, what was it? What, you know, we did have some conversation. You made some comments, but what was it like for you to be on the receiving end of that and sit in that space and hear what we had to say? What did you get from it? What did you take from that? What was your learning? Because that's something I don't tend to have for myself, is hearing back from white people about what that experience is like for them.
Good question. Really good question. I think for me, a huge sense of pride. As I mean, all the episodes. When we see the podcast and people go, "What was your favourite episode?" and we're always very fair and say there isn't one, but that episode that we recorded was, to me, it was so new and so different, because we'd never handed the podcast. It felt like we'd handed over the podcast to you, but we knew that it was the right thing to do, because we had struggled so much with, well, we can't ignore this, but we don't feel qualified to talk about it. So we had to really sit and think, well, what's the angle that we take? How do we do this? And how? And we kind of approached it in the way that we did with with Michael, I suppose. Actually, it was, you know, when we approached Michael and said, look, actually, we need to get the men's perspective into this. Will you be on the podcast? So you approach it from the learning point of view. And for me, I learnt so much, but I also learnt that how much we also, in some ways, through isolation and attitude, there is so much that we can support and share. And in some ways have in common that actually that theme of isolation and misjudgment and misinterpretation and expectation is in some ways throughout the community, regardless of where we come from and who we are and how we live and all the things we do. There is always something in common. But I learned so much. It was the most moving episode that I've been part of, I think. And we've been so many episodes, but I found it intensely moving and just so very honoured at the time. And it stayed with me an awful long time. And it's the one that I go back to often and probably listen to the most. And yeah.
Yeah, I found it quite humbling, actually, to be involved in it, because it's kind of, you never get involved in those conversations. And I don't think I've ever been more aware of my position of privilege from hearing your conversations. And the one that stayed with me, Yvonne, was when you said, I don't get to be a strong woman And it was like, you know, I don't get to be angry. I don't have permission to have that. And it was just like, that really stayed with me, because it's, you know, I'm effing and jeffing all over a podcast when I'm angry, and I was like, fuck, yeah, swearing again, you know, fuck, I can't imagine not having that space to be able to do that. And so it's like Berenice said, it stayed with me for a long time, and I have listened back to it, and it doesn't get any less powerful for listening back to it again. So yeah, it was humbling, and I felt really privileged to have been a part of it, just to sit and listen. And I think, you know, giving us permission to ask questions, I guess, without judgment. You know, because I said to you, didn't I, before, when I invited you on, I was like, you know, I don't know how to approach this. It felt unsafe in a way to acknowledge my ignorance or my unknown, you know, because I don't have that perspective. So yeah, it was one of the most valuable things I think I've ever done, actually.
Two things come out for me. One of them was how privileged I felt to be part of that conversation, as both the girls have said, because gruff white man in Australia would never get a chance to be part of a conversation like that, ever. But one of the other things, it was actually really confronting for me, and I think I did mention that, where it really challenged my paradigm. I thought I've always seen myself as someone who's easygoing and not racist, you know, but you challenged me there, because you made me realize that I was fooling myself, in that my behavior was just adding fuel to the fire. You know, by not seeking to understand, by not, you know, by having, I guess, I don't know what the word, what's that? So I told you I didn't have a big vocabulary, and this is where it fails me. But it almost said to me that, you know, this it's almost like I felt I had apathy, whereas before I thought I was cool and okay, and, you know, I'm a nice guy. Not that you girls went out your way to make me not feel that way, but for me, it really it challenged me immensely, and has really changed my paradigm about the way that I look at not just the community of colour, but many other communities that I need to understand. And if I need to speak, you know, speak about or not speak about, but again, understand, teach myself to understand the perspective of other people in minority groups. There you go. I think that was it.
It shows how brave and open, I suppose, we've all been in this, because you know, and there's a lot of conversations in the UK at the moment around systemic racism and racism, especially with the report that's just come out. And what you have demonstrated is the ability to have a conversation without defending your position. And what's happening now is, which is very rare for me, because my experience of talking about race and racism is met with defensiveness, and therefore silencing, because it's about, in a way, I'm not racist, so let's just shut it down. When we're not trying to say you're racist, we're just trying to say it exists. And actually, without the openness and what you've just demonstrated and acknowledged, it can never stop and never end, because people are not opening themselves up to say, actually, maybe that's how I'm contributing to this. And therefore, let me look at this a bit deeper and see why, you know, instead of, no, it can't possibly be me. And for me, it was a privilege to be able to have that conversation, because it's so rare. We can have it, you know, I can have it with my friends, because it is our experience, and we will hold that space for each other. But outside of that, it's very rare to be able to have that without it being met with closed-mindedness. And so it was a privilege to be able to be in that space with you guys and have it heard without it being dismissed. It was allowed, and it's very rare for the conversation to be allowed. And you can see that because you see the responses with so many different things. You know, the Meghan Markle interview is one of the backlash that came out in what I would describe as a system defending itself, instead of going, oh my God, it happened, and acknowledging that it happened and let that experience be true. And that's what, you know, for me, it was like, it just showed my life, because that's what my life is. And as I said, it was a privilege to be a part of the podcast and be invited on the podcast to have the conversation without having that experience, because it is so rare. So I do commend you for being open to being in that space. It says a lot about you guys.
Do you mind if I add to that, Yvonne? I just want to say thank you. Your work is amazing. I'm going to get a bit emotional here. I listened to your presentation for the Childless Collective Summit, and it was spot on. It was one of the most powerful presentations I have heard on this experience. And I would recommend people buy the All Access Pass if they just to listen to your presentation, because it was so good. And you know, what you've talked about really is white fragility. It's the way in which white people center their responses when they hear about racism. They center their own responses, and then the whole conversation is then about defending themselves, armoring up. And when they're convinced that they're not racist, they will spend the whole focus of the conversation will actually be about persuading people that they're not racist, rather than actually just being present to other people's experience. And that's what I love about you, what you bring to the community. It's just so beautiful and so powerful. So thank you. And I know for us here, like, it's one thing I'm sure that we have a lot of conversations about here, is that as anybody in Australia who is not an Aboriginal person needs to do a reckoning with their own colonising legacy and how they've been a beneficiary of what's happened to Aboriginal people here. And it's a really important conversation to have, and I'm just so honoured to be part of a community that's able to really hold the space for these really deep and rich and really important conversations. So thank you to all of you for what you bring.
I could listen to you forever, Sarah. Really, I could. It's just the way that you explain things is just so beautiful, so beautiful.
Thank you.
Robin, you've been quiet. Come on, what you got?
Very little. What have I got? Well, thanks for all the work you've done. Oh yeah, happy birthday! It's Manchester Pop, which is water, or Corporation Champagne. Yeah. So happy birthday and congratulations on doing such a fantastic job. And I really admire that you do keep going and everything you put in, because it is a commitment to your time and your effort and your learning. And it's something that I couldn't do. So I'm absolutely in admiration of you, and congratulations on everything you've done and everything and all your success you've had and the difference that you make. Because I think there's a lot of people who access this stuff who then who get something from it, but don't particularly join in, but they get what they need from it. And so just putting that yourselves out there and putting other people out and being that conduit is really useful to a lot of people, and you'll do a lot of good that you just have to accept you'll probably never know the good you did. You invisible heroes.
We quite like that, though.
Wow.
That makes me feel better, being invisible. It actually was something we picked up a bit earlier on about. We talked very briefly about. I don't think anyone should come into all of this for public accolades or to make money, even, or all of those things. Though, you know, we do the podcast is run on fresh air and love. To be fair, it's very hard to. I don't think anyone comes into this with, or shouldn't come into anything like this with nothing more than the idea of helping people, because, like you say, Robin, many people will. I know how many people listen to us, but I also know that wouldn't correlate then to the feedback that we get, because people don't always want to say, because sometimes writing something down to say they enjoyed something or that this was part of what they did that day is too painful, because it's acknowledging something. That in itself can be really hard. You know, even starting a podcast and saying, okay, we're going to do a podcast about, you know, childlessness, is acknowledging that, oh, we're in this space now. We're here. You know, this is me putting a label under something, you know, and a line under something, you know, that it's almost like reaching sort of a milestone birthday and saying, okay, well, I'm obviously, you know, that ship sailed and I'm not accidentally going to become a parent. You know, you're not going to be accidentally become a parent, because, you know, theoretically for me, medically, that doesn't happen. But setting up a podcast means you're also sort of saying the same thing. So it's very, I think if you come into it because you want to help into our spaces and the things that we do.
There's something going through my mind, and I was going to go somewhere else on that, but I won't. About, you know, normalizing the uniqueness of the extraordinary, and all our lives are extraordinary in extraordinary circumstances, and we're all unique, just like everybody else. But actually normalizing that and putting the stories out and being so genuine and authentic makes it easier for the people who access your podcast and access the material to accept it, because it's heart to heart. There's no hierarchy in there. You're not talking down, you're not bigging up. It's just as it is, and I think that's very special to generate that. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Robin.
Wow. God.
I can't take much more of this.
No, it's a bit kind of like, oh my God.
Need a beer.
I need a beer. I've got to go and take my husband for his second vaccine this afternoon.
Oh.
So, I've got that to do shortly. Oh. So I'm going to have to go very soon. So perhaps we're at the point where we can maybe gently wrap up, because we're feeling a bit like, oh.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, editing this episode, and I'm just sitting there thinking, I actually feel a little bit uncomfortable about it, you know, all the, not uncomfortable, but, well, no, uncomfortable about all the praise, and I don't want the next episode to be all about us. I don't want that.
But I think it has to be there in order to, I think, turn it on the other head, and that is, if you spin it round, then I'm trying to spin it round. Hang on a second. My mouth's going. My brain's still kind of functioning in a different sphere. It's a case of like, okay, so people have heard from our past guests, and the statistics. Well, I've just said, or previously in the episode, we're somewhere around 10,000 downloads, and we have. I need to go and check on the website, but last time I looked, we had 1,600 subscribers to the RSS feed. So that's people that regularly listen, that want to hear from us. So those statistics are a bit scary, but the point is that if we can do this, so can somebody else. And also, I think as well, please, if you're listening to this and you have an idea and there is a subject and you think, I think this is worthy of a bigger audience, then tell us. That's what we're here for. We're not the podcast to sit and tell you all about what I do, what Michael does, what Sarah does. It's your podcast. It's a community podcast. You drive our guests, drive the podcast, and the audience drives the podcast. And even if you've got an idea and think, okay, there's a thing, and there's a couple of things that popped up today actually in our conversation about what we might be able to talk about in future episodes, we can find the guests, or you can ask us and say, look, actually, I think this person's done some really great stuff. Can we get them, could we have them on the podcast? Tell us. Admittedly, we are getting so booked up, but we will do that, and we will keep going until, I don't know, we'll ever have any time to stop talking, because there's so much to talk about and so many different subjects. But tell us, follow us, tag us on Instagram, tweet us, DM us, get us in touch with us by the website. We absolutely, totally, utterly adore hearing from people. If you feel that you want to talk to us and you want to ask us a question, and there's something here today, and even if you want to know how to do a podcast, I mean, we're not experts, but we rock up. We've done it for 2 years. We know something. Just ask us, because that's what it's all about. And I will say as well that we're happy to be on other podcasts. We are not the Childless by Choice podcast. There are others around that we're in touch with as well, and we openly, utterly and warmly invite them to be part of our community as well, because and to share the podcast learning, because I think that is so important as well. Don't do rivalry, don't do competition. Blow that.
No, that's very true, actually, and that's one of the things I really love about this community is that we all know we're here for each other. We all know we're here to support each other. As an example, Sevilla's reached out to the guys in the Clan of Brothers and said, can you do something for my Father's Day episode? Yeah, sure, why not? Let's get into that. And so there's a few of us going to do something for her, and that's the great thing about it. Yeah. Is no competition. We're just all here for each other. No
hierarchy.
And I'm going to shut up before I start crying.
Oh, go on, cry. That might be a good ending, mightn't it?
It might be, yeah. Michael's sobbing. You can edit that one in if you want. We'll send you some really bad messages on Messenger and harass you a bit on Facebook, and we'll get you going. It's fine. Don't worry. If not, we'll just get you over here and just,
God. Not a chance. I haven't even had my first jab yet.
Yeah, you feel like crap if it's AstraZeneca, but gratefully crap. That's how I looked at it. Gratefully crap. I felt like I had a hangover with none of the tequila. It's brilliant. Yeah. Not that I drink tequila, just to warn you. But yeah, gratefully brilliant. But can I just end? I'm going to end now, if that's all right, because I'm going to have to go and get off to the thing. But I just wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone who's been a guest, to everyone that listens, but most of all to Michael for just everything. When I first met you, we talked for hours. All of us were sat there, and I just knew that you would be a friend for absolute life. And I just hate the fact that we are miles and miles away from each other, because I've just been around your house all the time. And at some point I'll probably turn up on a container ship and you'll have to come and pick me up somewhere in Sydney. I don't know where I'll be. I'll just let you know. I'll be more lost than Yvonne on her bicycle ride this morning, but I'll be there. And Sarah, you're just amazing. You are, God. Every time I contact you and every time I go, oh my God, I got the collie wobbles and there's something going on and I don't know, you're there. And I just couldn't imagine a life without you in it. You're just brilliant. You're amazing. And I'm going to stop because I'm about to
cry. No, thank you. It's been wonderful to see everyone. Thank you very much. I have felt various amounts of cringe as we've been talking, but thank you. And long may it continue.
Yeah, thanks everyone. And I'm going to shut up because I have got tears in my eyes after the. Thank you, Berenice and Sarah, for being a big part of my life.
So having a party next year in person with heaps of cake and loads of booze, please let that happen. We just need to we've got to get it out of our system along with road trips and other things. So we could be turning up on a doorstep near you, Robin Hadley and Yvonne John, Sarah and I will be like, hi, we just turned up.
Yeah. Go and get a pint.
Go get a pint.
Cool.
Let's riff it.
Yeah. No, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Birthday.
Thank you. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Yay.
Well done.
I'll put some
Happy
sound effects
birthday
in there.
to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Michael, Berenice, and Sarah.
Happy birthday, to you. Full Stop Podcast.
Oh. Thanks for staying a distance on this one. Now, we've had feedback from our community saying they love the conversations and so aren't concerned about the length of time they go for. Now, we'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well, so please contact us via Facebook, Instagram or Twitter, or our website, www.thefullstoppod.com, where you can also register for our newsletter so you can keep up to date with what we're up to. And we would also appreciate it if you could rate us on the platform you're using to listen to the podcast. The more ratings we get, the wider the spread and the more of our community we can reach. If you'd like to be a guest on the podcast or have a burning issue you think our community should know of, drop us a line. You can find our contact details on the website. And don't forget, we do love hearing from our audience, so if you want to get in contact with us, please drop us a line at any time. And as always, it's important for us to let you know you are not alone.